Jake here for Extreme Terrain, and today I'm taking a look at the Borla Climber Attack single turn down exhaust system fitting 2020 and newer 3.6 liter JT Gladiators. If you want the ultimate exhaust system with the sound to match for your Gladiator, then look no further. Borla's Climber Attack system gives you a great sound, more volume, and it keeps your clearances intact for off-roading. Now on our loudness meter, this one is going to get a very strong 4 out of 5. Even though the look might be subtle, the sound is anything but. Borla has been making high quality exhausts for a long time, and they've now brought their expertise to the Gladiator. This system really opens up the Pentastar's vocal cords in a way I can tell you I was not expecting. As you heard from the clips already at the start of the video, this system has some serious noise to it. It takes the JT from sounding pretty quiet and sedate to something more akin to a full-out race car. Now, it's not always easy or even possible to make a V6 really sound good, but I think Borla made it happen here. You get a much more pronounced grumble at idle and a really aggressive, raspy type of tone at the higher RPMs, but man, does it sound good. Now, of course, all that sound outside means that you are going to get more noise inside of the cabin. And while the JL and JTs are more civilized than previous generations of Wrangler, be warned that this is going to be much louder than your stock system on the interior of the truck. Now prepare to turn up the volume a bit when you're listening to some music, maybe speak up a little bit when you're having a conversation. However, this is where the subject of drone typically pops up. And as with other Borla offerings, they claim that this one has no drone at all, none, at any speed, in any gear, or at any RPM, and that is true. Borla uses a patented technology they call polyphonic harmonizing technology, which is basically a fancy way of saying that inside of the system, in this one it's here in this resonator, they include smaller portions of pipe cut to different lengths with specific perforations, diameters, pattern, size, etc. And those help to eliminate unwanted or dissonant frequencies that can cause drones, so it kind of smooths out the exhaust flow for you. However, it doesn't affect overall sound quality, and there's not a ton of baffling in this muffler, so you're still going to get that really great, nice, loud exhaust note. Now this system also exits in the stock location, so it keeps everything looking pretty much stock. Now in place of our usual tip, you've got a turn down. Again, very much akin to what you get stock on the Gladiator. So it's meant to keep everything tucked up pretty close to the body of the truck, maintaining your departure angles and other clearances. So if you are doing some heavier duty off-roading, you're not going to end up catching this on obstacles. As with other Borla systems, this one is constructed from T304 stainless, so it's super strong and has excellent resistance to corrosion and rust. That's a total win for both the casual driver and the serious off-roader alike. You aren't going to have to worry about this one at all for the long haul, no matter what you do with it. And despite not having a traditional tip at the end, you are going to get something a little bit different than stock because it's going to show this raw stainless there. So it's a little nice touch to finish things off rather well, even though you're not getting a traditional tip. Pricing for this one comes in at about $975, and that puts it somewhere toward the middle of the category. It's not at all the most expensive, but you are going to have to pony up if you want that drone canceling technology and that T304 stainless steel construction. However, as with all Borla exhausts, you get what you pay for here, and it's certainly a good value for money considering that sound, materials, and the ease of installation. Speaking of, installation is going to get a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter. It should take you about the standard 2 hours to complete. As with any exhaust, getting it in can be a little finicky just due to a lack of clearance, especially if you're not working on a lift. But this is a job you can accomplish at home with minimal fuss. It's a total bolt-on system, and it utilizes all of your factory exhaust hanger locations, meaning that you don't have to modify anything on the truck itself, and you get all the clamps and other hardware that you need to get this installed too. All you got to provide is the tools. And now to show you exactly what's entailed with this install, let's head on out to the shop.
The tools you're going to need for this install include an impact, electric or regular 3/8 ratchet, a flathead screwdriver, an 18, 15, 13, and 10 millimeter socket, a pair of gloves, lubricant, safety glasses, hanger removal tool, a rag, and your spare tire tool. What's up guys? Today we're going to be installing an exhaust on our Gladiator, but before we get started you're going to watch a short video on how to uninstall your stock components, and I'll meet you back here for the install.
Okay guys, first step obviously is we're going to have to remove our factory exhaust. Now we have our Gladiator up on a lift to give you guys some better angles to show you exactly what we're doing underneath the Jeep. And the way we're going to do this is going to preserve our factory exhaust. If you don't care about your factory exhaust, it might be easier just to cut it off. But we're going to show you how to get this off while preserving the piping. So let's go ahead and get started. All right guys, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the skid plate here, and that's so we can drop the front end of the exhaust down. It'll make it a little bit easier to kind of work its way out. The factory exhaust is basically one piece from the Y pipe all the way back to the tailpipe. So what we're first going to do is we have a 13 mil bolt or a nut right here we're going to remove, and then we have 4 18 millimeter bolts here and then 2 up front here that we're going to remove, and that'll let us get the skid plate down. All right, like I said guys, that one we just did was a 13 millimeter, and the next 4 are all going to be 18 millimeter sockets you're going to need. All right guys, now before I do the front 2, make sure you're supporting it with your hand, because once you loosen these, the skid plate's going to want to drop on you. All right guys, now this point back is what we're going to be removing. So this clamp here we're going to loosen. You're going to need a 13 mil socket for this ball clamp. Now, unlike a regular flat clamp, these ball clamps have a kind of a curved edge that kind of cup around the end of the flange here. So you have to loosen it quite a bit in order to slide this out eventually. So we have that pretty good and loose, so we're going to move to the next step. All right guys, now we're going to pull back on this lock tab. This is just kind of to prevent the clamp from sliding at all. So just get a screwdriver in there, pull that back. All right guys, now we're right near the tailpipe, and this is the rearmost hanger. We're going to remove this bracket because it is the one bracket that is pointing in an opposite direction from the other hangers further forward on the exhaust. I'm going to use a 13 mil socket on these 2 bolts as well. All right guys, now just to get it out of our way, we're gonna pull this hanger off. You're gonna have to pull it out a little bit and rotate it down. There's this little tab right here that hooks into the frame rail, so you need to get it away from there. You should be able to just pull this out like that. All right guys, now go ahead and assemble the tool that comes with your Jeep. We're going to lower our spare tire, get that out of the way, and then also remove the spare tire guard to finish getting out our exhaust pipe. Now this tool basically goes into a plastic sleeve that's behind the bumper here. Once you get that in, you can't twist it by hand, then you know you're on the, it's kind of like a bolt back in there that the end of this tool goes on, and we're gonna use this just like a socket wrench. And then the lug wrench here has a square opening in it, put that in the end here. All right, with a bunch of slack let out, guys, you don't want to drop it all the way to the ground. You want to be able to get a hand underneath your tire. Lift your tire up. And there's a black bracket
the tire rests on. Slide it up the cable and get it through the lug hole.
All right guys, now to remove the heat shield that protects our spare tire, you're gonna have 5 bolts. They're all 10 millimeter. There's 3 up here that are gonna be very hard, if not impossible for you guys to see on camera here, but we're gonna take those 3 out first. All right, and then we have the last 2 right here, again, 10 millimeter. All right guys, now at this step, we only have 2 hangers that are holding our exhaust pipe up, and they are both pointing towards the front, which means with the help of my friend back here, we're gonna slide the entire pipe backwards out of these 2 hangers and then drop it down and actually pull it forward to clear the rear axle.
So before we get our front pipe installed, we're gonna slide our OEM ball clamp over the pipe. Then we can get our pipe into place. Slide the clamp over. Then you can take your 13 millimeter socket and snug the clamp up. Next we'll be installing our mid pipe, but first we're gonna have to remove this isolator with a 13 millimeter socket. So before we install our mid pipe, we're gonna have to remove this isolator above the axle, so we can use our 13 millimeter socket and remove these 2 bolts. So now moving on to the mid pipe, we'll slide this top end over the axle, slide our clamp on, get into our front hanger, and we'll slide our pipes together. We can slide our clamp up here and take our 15 millimeter socket and snug our clamp up. Now we can get our isolator and put it over the hanger. Grab your 2 bolts and get ready to thread it in. Then we can take our 13 millimeter socket and tighten these 2 down. Now for the over axle pipe, we can slide our clamp over, insert that into our mid pipe. And now we can grab our isolator. Now we can bring our hanger up. And for our isolator, these 2 prongs will go in this slot of the rail. So you can get that lined up. Thread in your 2 bolts. Then you can take your 13 millimeter socket and tighten these 2 bolts down. Then we can come up to our area. Now we'll tighten our clamp down with our 15 millimeter socket. Now we can insert our turn down pipe. You can put our clamp over, slide that in. Then you can take your 15mm socket and tighten up this clamp. And now you can go ahead and tighten down the rest of your clamps. Now we can reinstall our skid plate. So we'll get this lined up. We can thread our nut onto the stud. Then we can thread our 18mm bolts. So we can tighten our nut down with our 13mm socket. Now we can tighten the rest of our bolts down with our 18mm socket. Next, we'll reinstall our heat shield. There's 2 studs on the back of this rail that will go into these 2 holes. So we can get that lined up. We can thread our nuts onto the studs. And we can thread our bolts into the side of the frame rail. And we can tighten these down with our 10mm socket. So now to get your spare tire in place, we can pull up on this black wing, insert the spring through the middle of the wheel, and then loop our wing through the bottom. So now we can lift up our wheel with our spare tire kit. We'll slide our kit through this hole into a white funnel. Get that in place. Then you can take your tire iron and insert the slit through the poles. You can start lifting. And now your spare tire is in place. So that's going to wrap up the install on our Borla Climber Attack single exhaust system with turn down for your 2020 and newer 3.6 liter Jeep Gladiator JT. Thanks for watching, and for all things Gladiator, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.